I think that is all. For my part, now I must leave you. Your journey into the perilous wilderness of flexible and distance learning is just beginning. But have no fear. You will see Gandalf again before the journey is over. But as I go, however, I will leave you in the capable hands of someone who is as clever as some of the wisest elves. Professor Robin Longhurst of the University of Waikato, our Deputy Vice-Chancellor Academic, will now address you. Thank you, Robin.
Tēnā koutou katoa, nau mai, haere mai. Well, Gandalf is a hard act to follow, and probably I'll never have to follow Gandalf again. It's a oncer. So welcome everybody to the University of Waikato, to the 2016 Dean's Conference. We're excited to be hosting this exciting gathering with so many of you here. And we've even turned on a nice few days of weather, I think. So as the university's Deputy Vice-Chancellor Academic, I'm tasked with overseeing the university's teaching and learning strategies, and in particular our curriculum enhancement program, which we're now in the third year of. And it has a focus very much on flexible, open, mobile, distance education. In fact, the University of Waikato has been an advocate of technology and a leader in the digital learning sphere for a long time. We were the university that brought the internet to New Zealand in 1989, which some of you may not know. And we offered the first fully online teaching education program in the country, the Bachelor of Education. So academics from Waikato were part of a team that initiated and developed the Mixed Media Program, or the MMP, which enables students to complete a Bachelor of Teaching and of course stay in their own communities with the help of virtual teaching forums. So a program, in fact, that was groundbreaking in its efforts to break down physical barriers of learning. We also have a memorial prize named after one of those team members, the Nola Campbell Memorial E-Learning Excellence Award, which is presented annually to a staff member who's excelled in the application of teaching in their technology. And I think it's a fantastic award for us to have. One of the conference keynote speakers will be Dr. Diane Forbes, I think speaking tomorrow, a senior lecturer at Te Kura Toi Tangata, the Faculty of Education. And she's received several teaching awards from the university and has recently published her latest book with a colleague, Nolene Wright, called Digital Smarts, Enhancing Teaching and Learning. So we can look forward to hearing her discuss tomorrow the history of the mixed media program and showcase its success and present future possibilities on the impact of the program. So this conference, as you know, acknowledges the increasingly important role of online, distance, digital and mobile technologies. Platforms, of course, that have become an essential part of our learning, but also our living in the 21st century. And over the next few days, you'll hear from practitioners and theorists across primary, secondary, tertiary sectors about e-portfolios, virtual mentoring, innovations in learning design. The program looks absolutely fascinating, and I do hope to get to some presentations when I can fit them in. There's 4 graduation ceremonies this week, so it's a big week. And I really wish I could stay this morning to hear Professor Bonk, but unfortunately I am actually in the midst of a meeting at the moment that I need to get back to, so I would far rather be here. I'm very disappointed about that, but I do hope to see some of you later in the next few days. So there's a lot on the program. I believe you're having your conference dinner at Hobbiton, which I just think is the most fantastic thing ever. I'm sure that's going to be a wonderful experience for you all. I'm running out of minutes. Just one last point I wanted to make. A week or two ago, I went to a conference called New Generation Learning Space Design. It was a very interesting message at that conference in Melbourne, one that many of you will be familiar with. People talked in some length about how it's easy to build buildings, to fit them out with technology. The real challenge, though, is getting our colleagues along for the ride, is changing pedagogies. It's using those spaces, using that technology in the way that's innovative and allows for multiple possibilities. The cultural shift that has to go along with those new building spaces. So that's why it's wonderful. There's so many here at the conference. I think that the energy here enables us to kind of move forward with that agenda in exciting ways. So once again, welcome to the conference, everyone. It's a great opportunity to connect with your colleagues from around the world, to share ideas, to build our collaborations to enhance digital learning in the future. So welcome and enjoy.
Kia ora everyone. My name is Maggie Hartnett and I have the pleasure of introducing our first keynote speaker today. Before I do that, I'll say a little bit about who I'm representing, Massey University. As New Zealand's leading distance and online university, we're proud to be the Rhodium sponsor for the DEANZ 2016 conference. With over 15,000 students studying each year by distance and online, learning at both undergraduate and postgraduate level, we're proud to be the main supporter of the conference and of DEANZ, whose mission is making ARCO accessible for all. So as the representative of Massey University, I have the pleasure of introducing Professor Curt Bonk. Curt is the Professor of Instructional Systems Technology at Indiana University and President of CourseShare. Drawing on his background as a corporate controller, a CPA, an educational psychologist and an instructional technologist, he offers unique insights into the intersection of business, education, psychology and technology. He has received a number of awards, including the 2014 Mildred B. and Charles A. Wademeyer Award for Outstanding Practitioner in Distance Education. He has authored more than 300 articles and books on e-learning, including his latest books, which I happen to have here, one of which is called Adding Some Tech Variety, 100 plus activities for motivating and retaining online learners or learners online, and this was authored in conjunction with Dr. Elaine Poo, who is here as well. And his recent one in 2015, MOOCs and Open Education Around the World. In his talk today, entitled Education 3.0, The Learning World of Middle Earth is Fast Changing, Curt will take us on a journey across multiple aspects of digital-based teaching and learning made possible by the affordances of 21st century technology. While learning is about playful and highly engaged design, and where the learner creation of products is the new norm. Curt, I'm sure, will provide us with insights on how Education 3.0 will impact on us and how we in turn can significantly impact on it. Can you please join me now in welcoming Professor Curt Bonk?
Don't go away, Maggie. Don't go away. Before I get started, I have to thank some people for inviting me and bringing me here. In particular, people have written for different book projects of mine, and Maggie did write a chapter in my MOOCs book, and I wanted to, she has a copy of that book, but I wanted to give you a personal copy. Thank you very much. Others here, I definitely have to thank my good friend Ross Dustow. Is Ross here? Is there? Come on, I have a couple of books signed for you here, Ross. Come on up here and grab those. And his wife, who's part of the committee, Noline, is Noline here? Nolene here? Nolene, somewhere here? There you are. I have them for you as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, and you actually have the a hardcover copy of that. Stephen Gandalf, where are you? Where's Stephen? I want to thank you for bringing me here today and being patient in the hotel lobby while I changed my talk. So I was frantic that the talk was lost. Actually, thank you very much. And my costume is for later in the week. And then I also have to thank Bill Anderson. Is Bill here? Yeah, come on up, Bill. Bill took me all around New Zealand last time, picked me up in Wellington and took me to Palmerston North, got me on the plane to come to Hamilton. And it's a great story for those who want to hear it later on today. It was the most adventurous day of my life. So let's just say Mr. Bean took me off the plane. Bill doesn't know this, but Mr. Bean took me off the plane. And it got worse after that. National television in New Zealand, Channel 1 remembers it fondly. My worst job ever. But I also need to definitely thank Elaine. Elaine has been a good friend and co-writer of this Tech Variety book, and she said, I don't have your MOOCs book, but she also didn't have a hard copy of the book we wrote, so I had this specially sent for you. And so thank you very much for all your help. And I waited till she was done with her dissertation before working on that book project. I told her when she was done she could write the theory chapters of that book because I didn't want to do anything about theory at all. It's escaped me. So she did a marvelous job of really keeping us on task and getting us through. That book is free for all of you. It's at techvariety.com. So if you want to download it right now, TEC-Variety, 100 activities, TEC-Variety. We've had about 70,000 downloads. If you're Chinese, it's available in Chinese as well at the Tech Variety homepage. And we hope some other languages soon. So I will start my 55-minute timer here on this talk. We will give away 10 to 15, maybe 20 copies of First people who come to my master class tomorrow. And we'll save one hardcover for the debate, the best questions we get asked. So we'll give away books tomorrow to questions we get asked as well if you're not among the first 10 or 15 people that show up. So just ask good questions. I'm going to try something a little different here today, kind of commingle talks a bit. So we'll see if this works. I think it will. We'll see. Education 3.0, the learning world of Middle Earth is fast changing. As you can see, I did a MOOC. Stephen took my MOOC. Anyone else take my MOOC on how to teach online? Stephen reminded me this morning he was in my MOOC, and you can see I'm in MOOCing stance there with my glasses on. You have to be in MOOCing stance to do a MOOC, and that actually is from my MOOC. We had 4,000 people in this MOOC on how to teach online. That MOOC is still free off my homepage. If you go to my homepage, you can go through it. It was the first MOOC Blackboard ever did, about 3 or 4 years ago. And so I've got a free book on my homepage, a free MOOC, and 27 videos on how to teach online. There are 27 video primers, how to do blended learning, how to do collaboration, how to handle plagiarism, how to handle assessment. It's all free. My dean said, let's make it free to the world. You can download it, copy it, remix it, and you can even sell it if you thank us. So now I was in Taipei at this Confucius Center in Taipei talking to Confucius one day and about education and didactic education and where we've come from in Education 1.0. And you know, if we think about it, education for many people hasn't changed much over the past 2-3 millennia. People make jokes about education, that if Plato and Socrates woke up today, it would look the same as when they were in the vineyards of Academos and delivering education. Now, they were the first distance educators because books arrived. People could take a book and move away to another location and read from it. But in many respects, education hasn't changed from this early age. Rip Van Winkle could wake up long after the American Revolutionary War and see that education in schools haven't changed. According to most educational pundits, politicians, your parents and grandparents would say education hasn't changed much. That's the debate that we keep hearing over and over and over again. But I think I got news for you today. I think by the end of this talk, in 50-some minutes, you'll maybe agree with me that education is in the midst of a revolution, and it is changing, and maybe even has changed. We have to start thinking about where it's going, what Education 2.0 and 3.0 might actually look like. And some might say that it hasn't changed since Hobbiton. We'll visit that tomorrow night.
Keep it secret. Keep it secret.
I have a secret to tell you. I think it has changed from the Education 1.0 age in which we had correspondence courses. We had television-based courses. I'm a product of this. I was an accountant or a CPA, very bored taking correspondence and television courses to escape the cube farms of Milwaukee and change my career. Pony Express, We've gone well beyond Pony Express and correspondence courses today, Education 1.0. First ones being offered at the University of London in 1858. Some of you might remember Education 1.0 or 2.0, didactic, boring instruction. How many of you remember, how many of you are accountants, by the way? Anyone? The Accounting Association in America said accounting online is so boring. They had protests. It's boring online. They actually did. I got some news to tell you that face-to-face was plenty boring as well. So I'm going to ask all of you to repeat that with me here on the count of 3. Education 1.0. You shall not pass. It's all about failing kids, not growth. Education 1.0 is all about marking things, assessing their learning, not finding ways to activate the learning. Get them so that they're doing more learning for you. As Tom Sawyer said, painting the picket fence for you. So we're all going to say, you shall not pass on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. You shall not pass. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you, Gandalf. We had these, MOOCs you've already heard of. We had massive open online radio courses at Wisconsin back in the 1930s to teach economics and agriculture and typing and other vocational education courses. Massive open online radio, MORCs. Some of you might remember these Didio machines and getting all the ink on your fingers, right? We've come a long ways. In Indiana, we had courses in the 1950s on how to turn on and off an overhead projector, okay? I'm serious, and we're number 1 in the country. And yet we had these courses on how to save a light bulb. We've come a long ways. Some of you may remember punch cards. How many remember punch cards? You are certifiably old. You can be dressed as Gandalf. Zip-a-discs. I lost all my dissertation data in this when the root directory got to more than 100 files in DOS, you remember. And CDs. Some of you remember those old CDs, right? We've come a long way since that age, the 70s and 80s and 90s, right? Today, things are in a state of flux. There's a lot going on thanks to people like Charles Wiedemeyer. I was fortunate, as Maggie said, to get recognized last year or 2 years ago at Wisconsin in his name. His book is the best book you can buy for $1 on Amazon right now. And when I was in Taiwan or in Taipei, they told me 10 cents you can buy it online used. Learning at the Back Door, Reflections on Non-Traditional Learning Across the Lifespan. I have a course on emerging learning technologies that has a monster syllabus. It was 75 pages at one point. I start with quotes from this book. You can go to my homepage, download the whole syllabus on virtual worlds and blended learning and ebooks and whatnot. And it's this book that we start with. It's just like Vannevar Bush's article, As We May Think, where he predicted Wikipedia and the internet and hyperlinks and all sorts of things. You see this kid with lots of resources, the other kid that's not allowed into the school. He's peering in through the back door. He's not allowed entrance into this elitist school. But today you can get into any place, Stanford, Harvard, Oxford, Berkeley, through the side door, front door, back door. Today the world's open for learning for all of us. And I talk about that in my World is Open book. See, people like me could get into Stanford. I couldn't. I got a 19 on the ACT. I couldn't get into Lower Potomac State University with those test scores. But it doesn't matter today. Today, there's hope for us dumb people like myself, thanks to people like Charles Wiedemeyer, who created the Open U in the UK. Wisconsin didn't want to do it. Now, I benefited from his correspondence courses, and I took them at night. I know face-to-face was better. I know I would have got one more test score, point higher maybe. But it's all I could do. I was working full-time. That was my availability. I know that face-to-face for me would have been a better experience, but this changed my life. And I think we have to start talking about life change, not about test scores. And so his book and his ideas changed my life because he had made those courses available for me and for my colleagues and others. And when I got to Wisconsin, I helped create a similar courses on critical thinking for teachers and students. It's a great experience escaping from the cube farms of Milwaukee. I was a board accountant and CPA, and every day was the same old day. Every day was that same old day. I was sitting in the cube farm waiting for the chance to escape the cube farm.
Well, what if there is no tomorrow? There wasn't one today.
Every day was the same thing, going on over and over. You know those people do reports. It's like the people creating forms today in university settings are all 18-year-olds who can handle 8-point fonts, you know. I'm so tired of filling out human subject form. I think universities have gotten worse over the past decade in form. It's form hell. I'm form phobic, you know. So we move on to education 2.0, and now we're into the personalized computer age. And we're finding ways to guide student learning as instructors, not just didactic learning, but guiding the learning process, if you will. More cognitive psychology took over. That's what I studied in Madison. You know, Steve Jobs pushed this, but so did others. I had this computer right there. That was my computer. It was a portable laptop computer, 40 pounds, 48K of memory. It could not handle one PowerPoint slide today. We've come a long ways just in that alone, right? My boss, Clarence, didn't want me to buy this computer. Why would someone need a personal computer, he said. We were a high-tech company. We made the most dense circuit boards in the world for Hughes Aircraft and Boeing and Westinghouse and GE and whatnot. We would not change. Mainframe computers all the way, True Blue, IBM. I went to VisiCalc and Lotus 123 at nights and on the weekends doing these spreadsheets. How many remember Lotus 123 and VisiCalc, okay? They put it in a desk drawer. I didn't believe anything out of it. It was from a personal computer. I left and went to grad school, and that company went under. Think about education today and people who are not changing and not at least adapting. You don't have to change. You have to have a plan to change. You have to think thoughtfully about how to integrate technology. So I mean, you remember this age of education 2.0. Personal computers arrived in the 1980s and 90s, right? If you don't study, remember study cognitive psychology. Study skills were important in the 1980s and 90s. Vygotsky arrived on the scene, if you will. After the count of 3, you will not pass. 1, 2, 3. You shall not. Thank you. Fast forward 30 years ahead. I went to grad school in January 1986. It's now 30 years plus 3 months later. Times have changed. I mean, in the last 30 years, I was lucky to get into the field of human learning and human development because that's where things are happening today, in the human learning field. It's an exciting area to be in today, studying human learning and many facets of it, whatever age level you're interested in. Because today, anyone can learn anything from anyone else at any time. Young kids in the Philippines are learning from explorers in Antarctica. At night, they get 1 hour of satellite time uploading their researches. And they ask questions of kids in the Ice Stories project from the Smithsonian and other places. The Exploratorium in San Francisco have a project for kids in schools. There are many of these global collaboration projects. Centenarians in nursing home are mentoring kids in schools. Retired grandmothers in the UK are in the Granny Cloud for Sagata Mitra's project, the Granny Cloud project. You might have seen the TED Talk he gave, won awards for. His grandmothers are mentoring kids in India 1 hour a day, 1 hour a week of internet time they give up to mentor kids. It's amazing what's possible today on the web. And our roles as instructors, and my next book will be called Education 2020, or I'll go through 20 new roles of instructors. We're changing from being credit managers and camp commanders to being curators, concierges, cultivators of learning, counselors, consultants, these different C words today. We're in this age where students walk up to us, they have a need, and we provide them with the resources. We're providing them paths to learn from. We give them experiences and possibilities and places to go. We don't dictate all of it. I have a monster syllabus, 70-some pages, and the students walk in and say, Dr. Bonk, they cry. This is too hard. I can't do this. And they walk out of the class 15 weeks later and say, that syllabus is too short. I want it longer. I need more stuff. I need to keep going in this.
A wizard is never late. Nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he meets you.
And that's what a concierge does. That's what a good counselor does. I think we're going to see super e-mentors and counselors arise in this century. And these super e-mentors and counselors are going to have the human development backgrounds, psychology backgrounds, as well as the domain expertise, whatever it is, social work or accounting or occupational therapy or biology, whatever, plus an understanding of how to use the internet as a learning tool. See, today we're in the learning century. Make no mistake about it, we have entered we've gone beyond the information age. We are in the learning century. Maybe by 2060 we'll recognize that we've entered the learning century, but we are in it. We have these technologies attached to us to utilize learning opportunities, applications, whatever it happens to be, at any moment of the day. Some of you are in the back of the room checking your Facebook or trying to friend me in Facebook, I assume. How many of you are my friends in Facebook, by the way? Okay, I was in Montreal once. I had 2 friends in Facebook about 8, 9 years ago, and I had an accordion player from Germany and had a student of mine who had been my student for 20 years and was trying to finish. By the end of the day, I had 100 friends from Facebook from Canada. The Canadians love this. Ontario in particular love Facebook. Anyhow, we're moving to this age of Education 3.0 where we move from the instructor as a source of knowledge. Education 2.0, we're a guide of knowledge. In Education 3.0, we are a curator. We're a concierge. I like the concierge metaphor. We are a conductor, an orchestra conductor, where we move away from just the traditional assessments and testing to finding flexible avenues, as Bill mentioned last night, I think, in his opening. Flexible opportunities, flexible learning consultants. I love that title from Australia and here in New Zealand and the UK. We're moving the boundaries. We're pushing the edges so learning takes place all the time. In fact, we interviewed people taking MOOCs and taking open courseware from MIT. They love the opportunity to learn how to fix their bicycle at home on their own time, or their plumbing, or whatever. As soon as we want to assess it with a badge, they want out. There are a lot of people that just want to learn. They don't want, and the problem is, us in the university settings want to assess. How are we going to assess what's happening? Education 3.0 agrees we need to assess at some point when you want it, but our resumes, our CVs will be split up. A top level will be formal education. In the middle will be that assessed portion of open education and MOOCs. At the bottom will be our explorations. We don't give enough credit for what people are learning in education. But all this stuff about how you present at a conference, say pages and pages and pages, but we don't give any indicator of where you've learned and what you've learned and how you've learned and all that. We have to emphasize that more in Education 3.0. Gone crazy, come back, be back soon. That's what teaching a MOOC is like sometimes. You kind of go a bit crazy. Okay, I'm going to ask if you've read any good books lately, because these books are about this new era of Education 3.0. What I see happening is a push for innovation, a push for creativity. And here's a few books I've read recently, including Daniel Pink's Drive book. You may have seen this book about intrinsic motivation, self-directed learning, engagement, autonomy, giving choice and freedom to explore the learning. Angela Duckworth at UPenn has a book coming out on grit, persistence. You might have heard of the Tiger Mothers, right? That push kids to learn. But how do we get students to be gritty themselves and push themselves to learn and overcome the barriers and challenges that confront them? She's been very popular in this new psychological construct called grit. And there's an assessment tool that you can use in schools with your kids to see if they have this grit, true grit, I guess. You might have heard of the book Eat, Pray, and Love and the movie, Julia Roberts. The woman who wrote that, her newest book, Creative Living Beyond Fear, Elizabeth Gilbert, has done some TED Talks. I recommend you watch them. It's about how to foster creativity, not just as a writer. The book's focused on writing, but in any discipline. I listened to this book 2 to 3 times in my car. It's so powerful. And then I bought the physical copy. Currently, I've got a book, Wired to Create, Unraveling the Mysteries of the Creative Mind, by Barry Kaufman and Caroline Gregory. Actually, I just finished this one as well, and it's another one I listened to twice in my car. It's more research-based than her book is, but both get at this notion of how to foster creativity and create environments for innovation and creativity. Similarly, and I have not read this one, I just bought this one, Originals, How Non-Conformists Move the World by Adam Grant. And Daniel Pink interviewed him recently for his Pinkcasts. He's got a weekly Pinkcast, 1-minute kinds of overviews of what's happening in the area of learning. And I highly recommend you subscribe to Daniel Pink's newsletter and Pinkcasts. But this Nonconformist book gets at this same trend of innovation. Now, you may have read Steve Jobs' book. Anyone read Steve Jobs or Einstein or Benjamin Franklin? Okay? All 3 books are written by this gentleman, Walter Isaacson. And they're great books. I've read them all, but this book is better if you're interested in what we're talking about here at this conference at DEANZ, because they summarize what's going on in the computer and technology industry over the past 2 centuries. And they start with who were the first programmers, and those being women. Women, including Leda Lovelace and others, were the first programmers till men figured out it had some prestige to it. It wasn't the secretarial work that they thought it was. And then men started doing it as well. But there are many interesting stories about Twitter and Facebook and other things in this book. It goes all the way from the early 1800s on through this 2015-2016 era. including covering things happening at Apple with Steve Jobs and Wozniak. Mindset by Carol Dweck talks about, again, this notion of practice and persistence and not blaming others for your failure, looking at how to overcome your weaknesses through strategies. And don't look at intelligence as fixed, but something that's malleable. Intelligence can change. You can better, keep doing better through practice, through trying new strategies and so forth. And that book's been a bestseller and very popular. She was at Stanford, now at Teachers College, Columbia. Creativity Inc. by the co-founder of Pixar. At Catmull talks about environments for learning and being creative and how to offer opportunities to fail. The reason why Pixar has been so successful is they enable people to fail in small budgets before they approve the larger budgets. They have different rounds of trial and error, if you will, in flexibility and acceptance of ideas and brainstorming and reverse brainstorming and other things. He co-founded this company with Steve Jobs, of course. And he comes from the higher ed space. He was at the University of Utah as a PhD. So he's kind of combining that higher ed space and the business space, and that's what makes this book kind of interesting. It should be Pixar, not Pixat. Of course, The Hobbit, given the theme of this conference, The Unexpected Journey is a book about creativity and adventure and things I'm going to be talking about. So what if you read these books? Poll number 7, what would life be like? What if you read these particular books or others? And you can see the trend today towards creativity, towards spontaneity, towards trying new ideas out and not receptive learning, generative learning. Then you shall pass. Then you shall pass. Poll number 8, Visions of Education 3.0, the Knowledge Navigator. How many of you remember this little video from Apple, the Knowledge Navigator from 1987 or 88? You know, some of Ross remembers it as well. You know, if you get online tonight and go to YouTube, type in Knowledge Navigator, they predict Siri, they predict the iPad, they predict iPhone, they predict video conferencing. Many things we're utilizing today were thought about decades ago. Swiping and so forth, calling up intelligent butlers, getting your database comparison and contrast through an intelligent aid. We still have a ways to go in some regards, but visions of the future, many of these things were predicted for some time. They spent $60,000 when Steve Jobs was fired at Apple. Scully took over. John Scully from Pepsi Cola took over, and they put this video up because he didn't know much about computers. So he funded people to produce a video of the future, $60,000 at an EduCom conference. This video is still very pertinent for all of us today. And now we push on into these hand-swipe tablets, computers that were predicted back then. Now I'm going to go through 30 ways during the next 35 minutes that technology has changed and revolutionized our environments. It makes it more informal, more video-based, more ubiquitous, collaborative, self-directed, global, mobile, open, and massive. That's about 8 of 30 ways. If just one of these things had happened, if just one change, learning being more massive, MOOCs had happened, or more mobile, this would be a revolution. But we've got 30 things happening simultaneously. It's confusing as all heck because of this convergence of trends all around us today to make sense of where we're going and what we should emphasize at Waikato or wherever you happen to be working here in New Zealand or in Canada. We have people from other parts of the world here as well, Australia and so forth. Definitely number 1, where I'm studying, is informal learning. Where 80 to 90% of learning is informal, yet we emphasize the formal. All the grants you get out there typically is for formal learning, yet the people around you are learning informally. We've got a misappropriation of funding because it's based on old models expecting people to learn in formal settings when actually it's happening on the fly, just in time, just enough. Prehistoric Googling. Ross probably remembers this as well, right, Ross? Prehistoric Googling. Okay. Some of you, yeah, smiling there. You remember those? But today we've got technologies wrapped around us at all times to learn when we want to, where we want to, how we want to, with whomever we want to learn. In a social space. Vygotsky's ideas about learning in a social plane, inter-psychological plane, within and among with other people, is alive and well in Facebook and Twitter and other technologies, social media today. Mobile learning. In my World is Open book, trend number 9 of 10 is mobile learning. People said it would change the world in 2008 or 9 when that book came out. And it took a while to change the world. It didn't happen immediately, but it's happening now. We can take full-on courses from Coursera in biology, or in computer systems or chemistry or art or business management, economics, software engineering, full-on classes on the mobile or on whatever device. And soon we're going to stretch our mobile devices out with these screens that are bendable. Samsung and LG are building bendable screens, I should say. And so we're going to have the chance to read full-length novels on these while walking down the streets here in Hamilton or in Tokyo or wherever you happen to be in the world, and reading off people's backs, projecting on their backs as you're reading in downtown Seoul or wherever you happen to be. This is coming as well, okay? So we are learning all the time. We're a learning species. We are curious about things, right? So learning's more mobile today. It's on smartwatches. Who has a smartwatch with them here? Can you show it? Can we take a look? Can we take a look? Can you take it on? That's mine. So, what's your name? Nigel. Nigel's a good guy. He gave me his phone. So, what do you use it for, Nigel? Everything.
Yeah, just communications.
A lot of people use it for communications and set their schedules and so forth. This guy's using it to get his friends to join him at a restaurant. He's kind of lonely there, you know. He's from USA Today, Ed Page, and he talks about new technologies every week. He's calling up, looks like a communicator in Star Trek, right? Well, apparently a month or two ago in India, they created a smartphone for less than $4 USD. And when you have a smartphone for less than $4 USD, and you have a flash memory stick that holds a terabyte of data for $1, and you have a laptop, they build a laptop for $10. For less than $15, you can have terabyte data stick, a smartphone, and a laptop. Times are changing. We don't have to worry about the cost of technologies as much anymore. We have to start worrying, as Maggie said, and Robin said in particular, that we have to think about the pedagogy around using these. Now, some of us have separation anxiety from your mobile. My charger, my battery got low. I was getting nervous last night at the reception, so I had another glass of wine, or two or three, as you saw. I didn't have much battery. How many of you get anxious like me? When anxious like me, when your mobile's, yeah, okay? You're suffering from nomophobia. Now, one of my colleagues, Anna Paula Carrera from Iowa State, she's studying nomophobia, and this is a TV show that featured her survey. And where's Nikki Davis? It's one of her colleagues when she was at Iowa State. So nomophobia, I would feel uncomfortable without constant access to information through my smartphone. Running out of battery would scare me, right? How many of you have running out of battery would scare you, okay? Separation anxiety. This is a new psychological construct, perhaps, in psychology. Now, in Hong Kong, where I was in June, people were checking their mobiles all the time. And I went to dinner at the Outback Steakhouse in downtown Hong Kong. I walked by a group of 8 young people in their 20s, and all of them were checking their mobiles. None of them were talking to each other. I so much wanted to get a picture of that. And here's some of the people were in the subways of Hong Kong. Someone even, got hit by a car. He survived. But in Seattle, someone walked into a bear recently. Survived. In California, someone went over a ledge while checking, didn't survive. So be careful with these addictions to mobile technologies. Learning's more flipped. It's an accounting professor who's probably boring just like I was in accounting. Put all his lectures up in a video format and retired. And people are using these videos to teach accounting now at Brigham Young in Utah State. This is in the state of Utah. Salman Khan from the Khan Academy was the one pushing this. You might have heard of, how many of you heard of the Khan Academy, right? Flipping the classroom. My students this week, in fact, what day is today? Today's Monday. So tonight my students are watching videos of me. My TA is helping structure the discussion around the videos that I posted up. And last week we had a session on flipping the classroom, in fact, in my emerging technologies class. So flipping is number 2. Salman Khan in the Chronicle of Higher Ed 2 weeks ago talks about how flipping can remake education, pushes it to Education 3.0. It's a new interview. If you go to the Chronicle, you can hear what he has to say about this new era of Education 3.0 and how to remake education. Learning's more video-based. Now, we use lynda.com, and lynda.com got bought out by LinkedIn. Any LinkedIn people in here? Any of you my friends in LinkedIn? No, not all. She should be your friend in LinkedIn. She just made $1.5 billion selling lynda.com to LinkedIn. LinkedIn will be the place to go for learning in the near future. It already is for many of us. They'll have full-on courses in professional development there and badging and other things. We use Linda at Indiana for our training in technology, whether it's Excel spreadsheets or something else. Now again, I did Lotus 123 and VisiCalc back in 1983, 84, and I was a wizard at that. Today I can't use Excel. I don't know anything much about Excel because I haven't kept up with that side. But here's Linda. There's Linda. You can friend her. Their tagline, what do you want to learn today? When I went to school, I don't think there was any company that had a tagline, what do you want to learn today? We've moved to the learning age. When you have a kid here at age 10 years old who won 2 of the 3 top junior championships in the world, practicing on the sugarcane fields of India, plus watching Tiger Woods videos. He learned from watching Tiger Woods videos. Albert Bandura, social learning theory, vicarious learning, watching videos to learn from. Today, we can all learn informally like that. He's a champion at golf as a result of videos online. If you're interested in video online, we've moved from an age of Wikipedia to Videopedia. I've indexed 80 sites like YouTube and TED Talks. If you go to my homepage, click under Web Resources, you can find a listing, a portal of 80-some sites to learn through video. AACE, which I helped their conference, the American Association for Advancement of Computing and Ed, have now, 2 weeks ago, created a channel for the conference. If you missed the keynote, they're going to post it for you. If you can't afford the conference, it'll be up there. And so, my friend Elliot Soloway, a good friend of mine, had a session on scaffolded synchronous learning. I watched it last week. I thought, this is great. It's been a mentor of mine since before I went to grad school. If you've never heard of Elliot Soloway at Michigan, he's in the computer science department, the engineering department, and the education school. He works with kids in schools in Singapore and around the world, mobile learning and gaming and other things. You can learn a lot from people you never met today. You can go to eLiterate TV. It's an interesting channel I stumbled upon a couple of weeks ago, and hear what people have to say in school systems in Middlebury College about change in education. Learning is also not just more video-based, but more visual. We're going to have these gigantic walls, 80-foot walls, when we walk into a conference like this, where we can see, kind of get a sense of who the keynote speakers are and what's going on. So we can, what room do I want to go to? We can, oh, that one looks interesting. Let's go off there instead of going in the room, shutting the door, and find out you're in the wrong room, and then you have to leave. You know, kids are going to walk into schools in 5 or 10 years. They're going to be picking their teachers for the day, coming from little kids. They're going to pick their teachers from Singapore, Philippines, wherever, and their classmates. It won't be the kids down the street anymore. They're going to have this video wall that they're going to pick their classmates for the day. Learning has become more visually based in airport terminals, in grocery stores, in cafes. We're going to be learning through these visual walls. We have a gigantic IQ wall at Indiana. This gigantic IQ wall is the largest from a single projector, the largest tiled wall in the world. I brought in people whose articles we read the last week of the semester. I brought them in through a video wall. Back to our MOOCs book, Maggie, we were thinking about having all the authors come in through this video wall and having a book launching kind of thing. Learning is more touch-centered, swiping, touching, and finding out your schedules. Now, the gentleman over there has his smartwatch, but you can also have smart walls, I guess, if you will. And gaming. Gaming technology is exploding today. Gamification of learning by having leaderboards, hints and tips and cues and all sorts of things today. If you build a game to teach psychology principles, Gestalt psychology or something, that's replicable, that's shareable. We can extend that out. Once these games are developed, we can exploit those by sharing them around the world. Immersive technologies, virtual reality. In the National Basketball Association today, they're building, in America, they're building these virtual world experiences, but also enabling you at a game to have the worst seats in the game and have the headset on so you're like at the front court in the front row. This is going to be coming to all sporting events where if you have a bad seat, you can opt to pay an extra $10 for the headset to have the same view as someone in the front row. Okay? So this guy's doing some kind of military training, I believe, there. We have other kinds. There's the basketball one. They're testing out the experience of the front row while sitting way up at the top. Cardboard, Google Cardboard, enabling surgeons to save people's lives through a 3D representation of a heart in this case. We're seeing packaging and what ratings are on different packages so you know if you should buy this particular product or not. Getting other people's ratings on products, chocolate bars or toilet paper, whatever it happens to be, with these super lenses over the top. And as doctors, anatomy training or art-related information through your glasses or driving a car. The Mini Cooper is actually developing some products today, so you have cameras all around the car and you wear these augmented lenses so you can see if someone's coming to you from the right or the left or from behind, so you don't hit pedestrians as much anymore. Okay? As much. So augmented reality kinds of worlds. So you could be fixing a helicopter, for instance, in the military and get the schematic coming up as you're attempting to fix this. And this technology has been around for at least 15 years. I had a student do a dissertation back in 2001. It's finally hitting the market today. And most recently, last week, in fact, the National Football Association, or League in America, talks about diversity training through this augmented reality lenses. In addition, diversity training here, you can see, places the user in the body of an African-American woman as a white male avatar gets aggressive a few feet away. And Stanford has something where subjects are made to feel what a homeless person experiences in the scene, where they're transported into the body of a woman riding the bus with few possessions. So these augmented reality lenses might help politicians of the world who don't understand diversity. I won't name any names of people running for the Republican Party in America today, but I sure wish they would put these lenses on them just for a few brief seconds in time. Please. Maybe we wouldn't have so many walls going up. Learning's more collaborative. This woman here sat in my classroom, Beijing Normal. Even though she wasn't enrolled, she popped in through Google Hangouts. And today we use Zoom. Zoom's a wonderful tool if you haven't seen Zoom. And my TA was coming from Cyprus, and someone else coming from Shanghai, and someone coming from MIT in Boston. Google Hangouts, just hanging out after class. This is a scene after class ended. Students just want to talk. They just want to have a chance to chat, to informally ask questions. They hang around longer. How can we get technology integrated in our classroom so it's not just hitting the minimum, but hitting the maximums? You know, how do we do that? Well, we create galleries of student work, and we say, this is from last semester. Can you do better? And they want to be challenged to do so. Collaborative learning tools enable students to find a comfort zone, to find their peers that they can work with, talk about. They build mutual knowledge, intersubjectivity with one another. January 15th, 2016. So number 8 here is collaborative learning. Wikipedia is a tool for collaboration. I had students create wikibooks. My students wrote wikibooks together with students from Beijing Normal, the Open U of Malaysia, other places around the world. We did case-based learning back in the 1990s, late 90s, with students from the Open U in the UK and Warwick University in Finland, at University of Oulu in Jyväskylä. Collaboration online is alive and well. Now, Wikipedia at 15. A lot has happened in the 15 years. They've changed our ideas about what knowledge is, about what information sharing is about, what copyright is, plagiarism is, and so forth. I went to the headquarters with my son. That's a picture there. They had 10 employees. This is in 2008 we visited. They were on a hiring spree. They're hiring 2 people. It's not like General Motors or Toyota or Hyundai or something. They're changing the world with 10 people, okay? And that's Jimmy Wales, who dropped out of Indiana University to create Wikipedia. He dropped out of my university in the PhD program in business school. Interesting guy if you ever get a chance to meet. There are many collaborative tools to write in papers together or conference proposals together, or grant proposals. Everyone's contribution's a different color in some of these. Meeting Words, Pirate Pad, Google Docs, Now Comment, mixed in. I actually don't like Google Documents. Many of you I'm sure you use Google Docs. Pirate Pad and Meeting Words are easier. They're little sticky note wiki kinds of tools. Don't make it so complex. In fact, Google didn't even build that tool. Rightly was the tool. They bought it and put their name over the top, okay? I've been studying collaborative tools since 1990, and the tools from 1990 were amazing. We're finally getting back to that point in time. Learning's more social today. Learning's more social, right?
One ring to rule them all. One ring to fight.
Thank you, Gandalf.
One ring to bring them all. And in the darkness, fight.
Okay, learning's more social. We now learn on a social plane and among other people, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever social media you're using today, or in Canvas, Desire to Learn, Blackboard, all the discussion forums. Those are social spaces today. Instead of marking on on a napkin in a restaurant, we're marking these social spaces for collaboration. Facebook's plan last week, Facebook had a conference and they put forth the plan for the coming decades. And it's all about collaborative and social forms of learning and connections, what they're planning to get us to enable us to do and create collaborative teams of peers around the world to work with. We all know from a psychology point of view that we can't learn alone on an island. Even Tom Hanks needed to name his volleyball Wilson to have someone to talk to, okay? You need that outside other to correspond with and connect with. Learning is also more adventurous, as we know from The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, right? They're on an adventure. Learning is an adventure. Life is an adventure. My friend Aaron Daring at the University of Minnesota, I see you have 17 minutes left, University of Minnesota, studies climate change in his project Earthducation. He studies research around the North Pole in the Polar Husky Project. He has a project looking at cultures above 60 degrees latitude in the North of 60 Project. He has National Geographic funding and he goes around the world. He's from University of Minnesota, you betcha, yeah. And so Aaron's a cool guy. If you haven't had a chance to read his work, he's the only person I subscribe to in Twitter. He's the only one. If you want to know about climate change, just go to his Twitter feed. He's got all sorts of new reports there at least every week, if not every day. And those are the kids in the North of 60 Project that he's working with in the Baffin Islands or in northern parts of Canada or wherever he happens to be today. But here he is traversing, I don't know, Greenland or somewhere, and his kids in class in Minnesota are presenting final projects, and he's interacting with them at 40 below zero. He's in a tent at 40 below, interacting with his students back in Minneapolis and St. Paul. Learning is more direct from experts.
The ring has awoken. It's heard its master's call.
Expert apprenticing the learner. The apprenticeship model, cognitive apprenticeship, where you push, you guide, you force your student to clarify what they know. You get them to reflect. There are many cognitive apprenticeship principles today that are alive and well on the internet. We're able to do more today because of the possibilities to question, to force students to reflect and ask questions. And today there are these expert sites. You might have heard of Google Hangouts, but there was Google Helpouts for a while. That didn't succeed, but there's a tool called Doodle or Noodle. Noodle enables you to find an expert on any topic, teaching guitar or drums. Elaine's kids are learning all these musical instruments. They did a performance for me a couple days ago. You can learn online today. My son taught himself to play guitar through online means. Didn't ever have a face-to-face experience at all and learned many instruments. But this guy's teaching critical thinking at Iowa State. So much money he's making on the side, the faculty got jealous. He quit his job, moved back to Canada, Ottawa, where he's from, is teaching critical thinking online now. But you can go to Noodle is one, the Expert Cafe is another. These expert cafes are enabling us to get training at any moment in time. Anyone can learn anything from anyone else at any time. That's true here in these expert cafe places. And we'll see more of this. Udemy, U-D-E-M-Y, is the revenge of the underpaid professors. You can go to Udemy right now, put a course up, and make some side change if you want. Okay? Your grandmother can put one up, or your grandfather. Anyone can put something up at Udemy. Synchronous learning. We had a little session with some folks in Chicago a couple months ago. We used Zoom. They told me what they wanted me to present on. It's a little quick, one-to-one kind of thing. But you can go beyond that and in Zoom have many people around the world, many to many. My colleague Dan Hickey here from Indiana University had a badging mini conference with folks from Europe and around the world. Worked instantaneously. This is an amazing tool. You can do screen sharing, screen capturing, you can record, you can do chat, you can do PowerPoint presentations. Zoom will let you have up to 50 people simultaneously in the free version. In the pro versions even more, you can have multiple, and high dev. Learning is more digital. We know from our Sony screen readers and our Kindles. Anyone have a Kindle? Heard of Kindles or Sony screen readers or an iPad? Any iPads or Samsung products, right? Learning is more digital. We're learning online, downloading books and reading them in the trains or on a plane or somewhere else. How many of you read electronic books? Okay. Download it. How many of you download books to your mobile devices, right? So learning is more digital, it's more blended. Here we've got in Madagascar a gigantic lemur being found. And here are the bones of this gigantic lemur being found in a cave underwater. The same week, it's announced to scientists, the same day, in fact, it's in CNN. And there's interviews of scientists. And there's articles coming out about this gigantic or giant lemur. The same is true of finding missing links in human evolution. The same day these ancient jawbones are found, akin to Lucy, in fact. The same day, we have what I'm calling immediate science. We don't wait 3 years to get into a book, because today, the article explaining it is in Nature magazine the exact same day. Now, one year I was coming back from Korea, it was 2009, and I got to the airport, and there was a book on display in the airport. It just came out on Ida, a missing link in human evolution. I got home to look it up. I went online, and the video from Sir David Attenborough was there the same day. The article in Nature magazine was there the same day. The video, the website went live the same day. Kids in schools don't have to wait 3 years to get into the books, is my point. We have immediate science happening. When a new Viking site is found by satellites flying above Newfoundland, that data can be utilized by students in classrooms immediately. And this is just from a couple of weeks ago, this Viking site. And a lost slab of an ancient language that no one ever heard about, again, 2 weeks ago, was found and revealed. And the exploration's ongoing, but what we know is available for people to explore with today. When a new species is found that's called Smeagol, New Daddy Longlegs named after Lord of the Rings character back in November. Did you hear about this spider-like creature? Smeagol, like, are you scared? I'm scared of this too. Yeah, now I got you scared, right? Okay. Learning's more informal. We're learning donut kind of learning at the water cooler. I've got some business cards here if someone wants after and want to chat with me or meet me in the hallway. I'm going to hang around for the whole half hour during break to chat. That's where learning happens. It happens in the informal chats. It happens at Hobbiton tomorrow night. It happens at all the socials. Informal kinds of learning is where it goes on. People looking up things in Wikipedia and other places. Competency-based, we give people credit for what they know. Charles Wienermeyer again says we should do this. We have to move away from eyeball to eyeball learning, earpan to earpan learning to anything else. Too much of learning is eyeball to eyeball, when in fact most things that we do are on our own, just in time when we need it. Competency-based can give people credit for what they know, so they're not bored in classes that they've already basically learned the material. And learning is more on demand. Coursmos, a Russian company in California, so you shouldn't trust this company, but they let you put up your camera, just like Google. No, I like Google. Put your camera up and record and create mini lectures at the beach or wherever you happen to be. Coursmos, on-demand, just-in-time learning. Knowledge nuggets, little snippets. That's what people want today. Learning's more hands-on. We have maker spaces. Anyone heard of a maker space or anyone part of a maker space here? A couple of you are. We have a maker space across from my office, just opened up, where you can put together computers, you can create digital textiles and create 3D printer products, whatever you want to design. The Makey and the Kano are little tools, kits that kids can put a computer together, make a computer, and then learn to code it. Learn how to do computer programming after making the computer. Seymour Papert in action from 30 years ago. Seymour Papert created constructionism. He talked about kids taking a computer apart. $2,500 computer, take it apart, put it back together. Parents were having heart attacks back in 1985. Why are you doing this? Well, today these kits cost, $50 or $150. They're much more reasonably priced than when Papert originally proposed these ideas. In fact, you could have, as you see, very cheap banana as your space bar, or multiple bananas as a player piano. Okay?
How do you like that?
Number 19 of 30, personalized learning. Sorry, wrong movie. Bill Gates, though, said we'll have Yoda in our backpacks. I don't think we're there yet. But it's coming. Maybe for maths, but not for language learning. But having personal assistants at our side, and you can see this personal learning environment, the tutoring that's required and the constant feedback that students need. There are models coming out for personalized the learning process. I'm interested in how we personalize MOOCs. That's my new research area. I'm interested in cultural sensitivity in MOOCs, in fact. But personalized learning is an area that's getting growing attention, even for young kids. You have the iPad Potty for young kids. Where's Caroline? She was going to give me a picture at this point. You can see why I needed it. But she'll show that tomorrow. So go to Caroline's talk and get the extended picture. But kids learning their alphabet at their iPod while they're taking a potty, okay? Learning is more personal when we localize the MOOC knowledge, and we don't just have Western-centric knowledge going to people around the world, but you create content for people in Taipei or in Thailand or wherever they happen to be in the world. There's giant communities growing. I studied the OOPS project in Taipei, the open source, open courseware prototype system. My friend Lucifer Chu, I have a friend named Lucifer, I'm Catholic. My auntie's a nun, she's worried about me. My friend Lucifer translated Lord of the Rings to Chinese at age 26 and made $1 million, and then took half of that money to translate all MIT content free to the world. He now did The Hobbit, and he's going to do the same. So he's created the largest translation team in the world for Chinese, simplified and traditional. Coursera is creating a translation team like that. Learning is more communal, going to places to share what you've learned in a MOOC or in open courseware, whether you might be in Madagascar or Tanzania or in Germany or in the Ukraine or wherever you happen to be, Brazil or Venezuela. You have these meeting centers, places to go. Maybe an instructor 1 day a week. You can go meet with an instructor when you take a Coursera course now. Communal-based learning, so it's not just on your own, it's a mix, it's a blend. Learning is blended, if you will. Open language in Shanghai. My friend Jenny Zhu had Chinese Pod. It took off before the Chinese Olympics. They thought English Pod would, Chinese Pod did. 300,000 people a month downloading free podcasts. Now she's got open language, teaching different languages through a similar means, just a different name. But you can take a look at open language. You can look at Babbel. You can look at the Mixer. I have a student studying language learning online at the Mixer from Dickinson College right now. There's Jenny at People's Square, as opposed to People's Square. italki is another one. To learn through Skype correspondence with a native speaker. To learn through correspondence in Zoom with a native speaker, if you will. And have different cases, scenarios that you might interact with, little problems that you solve in learning the language. Number 21, learning is more online. I got 6 minutes, I see. Learning is more online. As you can see, my dean is happy. We've exploded at Indiana. All 8 campuses are growing online. But it's growing across the entire United States. Sloan Foundation has an annual report that shows how learning is increasing online. 20% growth online in the US over the past decade, 1% growth face-to-face. So what are deans going to be happy about? The 20% growth in an age of budget crisis. Okay? Now, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are quality, copyright, plagiarism, and assessment. These are the 4 stopping points for most people. They will not do online learning unless I can answer questions about plagiarism. I have 30 responses: assessment, quality, and copyright.
They are coming.
And they are coming. You will know, faculty will walk up to you and say, I'm not going to do online learning till you answer these 4 questions. So you need to have answers in these 4. If you go to my homepage, my 27 videos, I have 1 on plagiarism, 1 on assessment, 10 minutes long. It might answer those questions about how to handle plagiarism and assessment. Of course, as you know, in face-to-face classes, students can come in with a can of soda with the answers laser printed around the can. That happens. You go to YouTube that shows students how to do it. They spend 6 hours. They could be studying for 6 hours. At Michigan, they had a dummy that got a degree. They actually got a mannequin, got him a social security number, and they brought him to class, and he got a degree in physical classes. So if you're worried about online cheating, it's happening face-to-face, okay? Starbucks, someone said, I found the Starbucks. Who was it who walked up to me the other day? No, the first thing they said, I found Marie, maybe she said, I found the Starbucks. Well, you know, those Starbucks employees get free education today. First it was 2 years, now it's 4 years of free education from Arizona State. It's a perk. In the past, online learning was something to be, worried about. People were saying, it's not as good as. Today, companies are saying, we're going to give it to you as a perk, a retention tool. It's going to let us retain employees. Beer, the #1 course at Portland State University, the #1 program at Portland State is a blended program on beer making. So you want to know what to get into, what do you want to offer? This is a niche market. Beer making is one that's growing tremendously as of 2 months ago. Mothers giving birth. So a woman giving birth while taking her final exam. Online learning is letting us change people's lives. Lives are changing. My life changed through television and correspondence. Migrant workers coming to Germany from Syria are not allowed to take courses for a year. And here, with this program, they're allowed to take and enroll in courses from a university in Germany. Curran University uses MIT and Harvard courses. So instead of being shunned at education, they're taking Harvard and MIT courses. This is amazing what's possible today. Flipping the question, in effect, of how can we provide, not how can we, wait and stop them from an education. So there's a lot of change happening. Learning's more modifiable, changing the room, the space, marking on the walls. We're marking on the walls here. In the past, when I went to school, if you wrote on the wall, you were expelled, you were kicked out. Today, we're encouraged to write all over the room. I have about 4 marker walls in my room. In Adelaide, Australia, learning's more comfortable, and students created this space, this learning hub, $40-some million they gave students to create the space to learn. And the first floor is more social, the second floor is more collaborative, the third floor is more counseling-based and reflective. And they created such a cushy space. When I was there, I did not want to leave. And I'm watching, what is that, the cup, what's that horse race that goes on? Melbourne Cup's going on, and I'm watching that, I'm sitting kicking. I go, Dr. Bonk, you got to speak across campus, we got to go. No, I'm just hanging out. I didn't want to, you want to create spaces where students want to be and to learn and to share. Learning's more ubiquitous. It wraps around us at all time. These iBeacons, and there's other tools Facebook's now building to put the connection on a bus or a bus stop to send a signal out. They're creating these little boxes that can send the signal out. They're also building unmanned planes to send signals out from the sky, and drones and hot pressure balloons up in the sky to send the internet to the world. In the next decade, we'll see the internet wrapped around the world. Learning's more instantaneous. As a traffic accident happens, the person at the accident scene can send image to the nurse or doctor back in the hospital to tell them what they might do with Google Glasses. Now, Google Glasses is currently on hold, but it'll come back. Learning's more free. Online articles from Cambridge and other places give us these online articles that thousands of journals are now available for free. And I try to publish only in open access journals so people can read my work. If you're interested in publishing in the field of educational technology, I've indexed 100 different journals, of which most are free. Go to my homepage, click on web resources. I have a vPortal of videos, 27 of them. Type in vPortal, you can get a video on how to manage an online class, how to give feedback, how to create communities, how to do global education. We did 27. Learning's more self-directed. The Granny Cloud. Here's the teacher in the UK giving feedback to kids in schools. Thank the Sagata Mitra. He's got SOUL, self-organized learning environments. I've got the self-directed online learning team. We've got a SOUL team at Indiana as well. Learning's more global, number 28 of 30. We've got Skype classrooms happening, where a teacher's picking a place to interact with around the world. I had 15 weeks. We just finished my class. Every week we had a different guest from around the world come in to talk to my students about how they're using the knowledge from the class. Former students from my class all around the world are telling my students what they learned. Here's a refugee in Kenya learning from a MOOC. Amazing. This yak herder from Tibet's learning from Open Yale. This 80-year-old person in Texas is getting his degree online. So learning's more open to the world. It's available on demand, just in time for a wide range of learners. He wants to teach English someday. He's a yak herder today. Learning's more modular. Micro degrees, nano degrees, micro credentials, small bits of learning. We see companies out there creating Python program courses, Java programming courses, web design, graphic design. Some are guaranteeing jobs. Udacity is guaranteeing people a job at the end of 7 months of taking their MOOC courses and getting $80,000 a year after 7 months from these modular small bit courses. Learning's more massive. This gentleman teaches mythology to 40 to 50,000 people from UPenn to folks from India and the Netherlands and Spain and 180 other countries around the world. You want a free book on MOOCs? Just type in the invasion of the MOOCs. You can hear from instructors and instructional designers talk about MOOCs. MOOCs are changing much of the world today, but we still need to do much more. Udemy, I said earlier, the revenge of the underpaid professors. They have courses on health and fitness and photography, business. Many are free, some you pay for. This is from San Francisco area, south of Market. My friend in Ireland, Mike Farrick, has Allison. Allison offers free classes with advertising underneath. That's how they pay for it. They did stuff on Ebola when they felt like the World Health Organization wasn't reacting fast enough, he had a MOOC on sanitation and other things to deal with Ebola, and he had hundreds of thousands of people from West Africa subscribe to his MOOC. You can see the numbers of MOOC, how much it's rose in the past few years. We're over 4,000 MOOCs being offered right now. The month of October was the highest ever. You can see the trend line. It's not going down. People say it's over. It's not over at all. In fact, people are taking MOOCs from an exercise bike and so forth. I mean, it's pervasive today. Learning is happening all the time. There are C-MOOCs, connectivist MOOCs, which my friend Tom Rees says we link to movies. X-MOOCs, we watch movies. And P-MOOCs, project-based MOOCs, we make the movies. I've written a primer on MOOCs if anyone's interested in it. This is a chart from that primer where we discuss business plans of MOOCs. We discuss instructional design around MOOCs, the challenges thereof, and I'm happy to share it with you. If you go to moocsbook.com, I think you can just download it right there. Who's benefiting from them? People are getting new jobs, they're starting businesses, they're getting pay raises, they're getting promotions. Lives are changing. It's not just about dropout rates. This gentleman in particular took 250 MOOCs from Africa. He's in Nigeria. Many problems of access, but he suffered through and got 250 completed classes. Amazing what people are doing today. He's just worried about someone pulling the plug. In China, a couple last quotes here. The most memorable line from my visit to China: we have 12 million K-12 teachers in China who need to receive this particular in-service training. So we started with a small group of 200,000 people. Now here in New Zealand, 200,000 is not a small group, nor is it where I'm from. But, the scale here, the numbers here are just amazing. And Bill's back there saying, we needed this chapter in my handbook of distance education. This would have been fascinating to have back when that book first came out, 15 years almost, ago. But, this is the MOOCs Times building. They actually renamed a building in Beijing the MOOCs Times building in the Silicon Valley part of Beijing. So they've equated the word MOOCs with e-learning in China. Google has Googler to Googler training, employees training other employees in parenting and mountain climbing, public speaking. They're doing employee-to-employee kinds of things. So let's review. Let's all read this with me. I'll go it's more, and you can go informal, video-based, and so forth. So learning is changing. It's more informal, video-based, ubiquitous, collaborative, self-directed, global, mobile. Again, that's like an etc. That's like 8 of 30 ways. There's so many ways that learning's changing all around us today. Whether you're an aircraft technician or a financial planner or you're in a refugee camp, learning's changing for all of us today. And it's an exciting time to be in this field of learning. Things are heating up. Now, I have one copy of the MOOCs book left here. I've got a few more to bring tomorrow. But the original book cover was supposed to be that book cover. We would have sold more copies had we had that as the book cover. But we could have used this book cover. Okay, everyone on the count of 3 is going to say, my precious. 1, 2, 3. My precious. Things are heating up. They're coming. Education 3.0 is now coming into reach. I hope you've had a chance to get a sense or a vision for what Education 3.0 might mean. Learning is going to be more collaborative, more of a concierge-based instructor, more of a guide facilitating our personalized learning paths. Informal learning dominant over the formal side. I will be giving away books here later today. This is actually what the book cover looks like. These are my colleagues, Dr. Mimi Lee, Dr. Tom Rees from Georgia, Dr. Tom Reynolds from California. We've been working on 2 things, a special issue and a book for the past year. It took a lot of time. I nearly died. This web is wrapped around us today. We have a gigantic web of learning. Even squirrels and cats are learning online. We're learning all the time. Even wizards are learning online, as you can see today. We're at a jumping off point. Could I get everyone to stand with me before we go to break? Everyone stand up. We're at a jumping off point. I need all the ladies to help me. Caroline's going to be leading the charge towards the front here. All the ladies on the count of 3 are going to jump with me. 1, 2, 3, jump. I didn't see any men jump. That's good. Okay, all the men. 1, 2, 3, jump. And everyone together. 1, 2, 3, jump. Wow, that's great. One more time. 1, 2, 3, jump. Yeah, all right, great, you have a seat. So we're at a jumping off point. We're really not sure where we're going today. I hope your journeys today can give you that vision, can lend you some insight, can give you that next step, can push you to the next frontier of learning so that you have a possibility of taking back to your institutions, your organizations, some of the learning that you saw, some of the ideas you heard, some of the things you witnessed here at this session, the DEANZ Conference 2016. We have you all jumping, we have you all talking. What happens next? You shall pass. So I'm going to have you do one last with me. We're going to say, I can't do this alone. I need your help. Elaine needs your help. Nikki needs you. We all need your help. So we're going to say, I can't do this alone on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. I can't do this alone. One more time. 1, 2, 3. I can't do this alone. Let's listen to Frodo give it.
I cannot do this alone. I cannot do this alone.
Everyone together. 1, 2, 3. I cannot do this alone. It's time for a break. I need you to get to the men's room and ladies' room. Thank you very much for coming to this session. I'll see some of you at the master class tomorrow. Went over a little bit, but thank you.
Thank you very much, Curt. If everyone, if you can just join me in thanking Curt for his keynote speech.